As an athlete, you do not want to be following a low carbohydrate or a ketogenic diet for multiple reasons. The main reason being is that carbohydrates are your body's preferred fuel source for the vast majority of sports out there. The only one that's really an exception to the rule would be really long endurance events. So maybe if all you do is ultra running, ultra training, or long distance bike riding, something of that nature, that's really the only time where the ketogenic diet can and will maybe positively influence your performance. But any other sports we're talking about, running specifically, unless again you're a long distance athlete, running, basketball, weightlifting, bodybuilding, CrossFit, high rocks, pickleball, even any of these activities, carbohydrates are your body's preferred fuel source. Yes, you can do all of these activities on a low carbohydrate diet or even on the ketogenic diet, but no matter what you think, you are leaving performance on the table. This is what I tell people all the time. Just because you can doesn't mean that you should. Just because you can do the ketogenic diet and just because you might see results with the ketogenic diet does not mean that it is best for you to be on that diet. No matter what way you slice it, physiologically, scientifically speaking, your body prefers those carbohydrates for all those activities that I just mentioned there. So when you deprive it of those, yes, you might see weight loss, especially at the beginning. And that's why a lot of people like low carb and ketogenic diets, because your carbohydrates are what holds the water in your body. So your water, basically, here's your carbohydrate, here's your water, and your water literally binds itself, keeping it as low scientific as I can here to make it make sense, binds itself to those carbohydrates. So if you then pull out those carbohydrates, you also pull out that water. And that's why you might, I mean, if I didn't have carbohydrates, because I have a ridiculously high amount of carbohydrates, if I didn't have carbohydrates for even one day, but let alone like a week, I literally would probably lose 10 pounds in 1 week simply from cutting carbohydrates because all the water would start to not hold on to, not bind to those carbohydrates, and then your body won't hold on to that. But beyond that, let's say you're a marathon runner and let's say you run 4-hour marathons. Or say your goal is to run 4-hour marathons and you're running like 4:20s, 4:10s, something of that nature. Your body isn't running as optimally as it should if you're a low carb runner. And that's really why you can't get to those higher speeds, because when you start, there's a diminishing return. So let's say right here, I'm just making something up here. Let's use myself for example. If I run like a 10-minute mile, so I run most of my runs are like at an 8-minute pace. Like a nice easy run for me is like an 8-minute pace. So I say I run a 10-minute mile, and this is the threshold. So 10 minutes is down here, 9 minutes is up here. So if I run 10 minutes, my body might be using mostly fats for fuel because that's a lower pace for me. Again, you have to customize this for yourself. Might be 12 minutes for you, might be 8 minutes for you. Then as soon as I hit that threshold, so let's say I go like 9:45, now it's transitioned. Now I might be using like 70% carbohydrates, 30% fats. So there's a point of not diminishing returns, but there's a point of changeover here. And that's why you can't get to that next level, because if you don't have enough carbohydrates in your body, now your mind's gonna tell you to slow down. Your body literally is gonna make you slow down. And that's, for me, it'd be like a 10-minute pace. So 10-minute pace is like, I don't know, top of my head, like a 4:30 marathon, maybe something like that. So if I had low carb, if I wasn't giving my body the fuel it needed, I'd end up running like a 4:30 marathon. As opposed to if you give your body that fuel it needs, I could go out right now out my front door and run a 4-hour marathon. That's not food related. That's training related, but regardless of the point, um, when you give it that fuel that it needs, now you can go to that next level. So even if you're seeing good results, you're not maximizing your potential. It doesn't matter what you think if you think you're maximizing your potential, especially if you're a younger athlete. I don't know who's watching these videos, but if you're a younger athlete, like a high schooler, college athlete, you definitely want to be housing, absolutely housing carbohydrates. Really, I can't think of a single high school sport that doesn't run on carbohydrates. So you want to be giving your body that fuel that it needs. And then in general, I mean, who doesn't want to eat pizza? Who wants to eat cheese and bacon and stuff all day long? You want things like pizza. You want things like cereal when you can fit it in. You want bread. You want pasta. Give yourself the food that it needs. Don't just look for that quick fix diet. Yes, there's times where keto might be advantageous. There's times where you might go on a low carb diet at the end of a fat loss phase. But by and large, avoid low carb diets for performance and avoid them long term because it's not the preferred fuel source that your body wants unless all you're doing is sitting around on the beach all day and living a pretty non stress, nonchalant life.